Imagine-se no futuro. Onde você se vê? No topo de uma empresa ou de uma montanha, construindo grandes obras da engenharia ou da literatura. A jornada é intensa, desafiadora, e atingir seus planos de futuro exige preparação, não com um mapa pronto de um caminho já trilhado, mas com uma educação transformadora, que ajuda você a encontrar seu próprio caminho em toda a sua jornada de desenvolvimento ao longo de toda a sua vida. Assim é o ecossistema Anima. Aqui, o aprendizado vai muito além da aula, inspirando você a desenvolver seus próprios pontos de vista sobre o que está sendo estudado. E sobre sua jornada, você tem liberdade para ir além dos conceitos fundamentais da sua área, personalizando a sua formação durante toda a sua trajetória. Sempre com a oportunidade de colocar a mão na massa e viver na prática o que aprendeu. Além de ter acesso a um mundo de oportunidades de aprendizagem a qualquer momento na nossa multiplataforma. E quando dizemos mundo, é de verdade. Todo o nosso ecossistema de estudantes, educadores, instituições de ensino superior e referências nacionais e mundiais em áreas específicas do conhecimento. E cada dia mais expandimos a nossa forma de revolucionar o ensino, sempre buscando pela excelência e pela melhor experiência para você. É por isso que hoje somos o maior e mais inovador ecossistema de educação de qualidade do país. Tudo está ao seu alcance, do norte ao sul do Brasil e do mundo todo. Você pode estudar na sua cidade e ampliar seu conhecimento com cursos de escolas especializadas nos Estados Unidos ou na França, por exemplo. No ecossistema Anima, você aprende mais porque aprende junto e se prepara para ir muito além daquele futuro que você imaginou. Aqui, você se prepara para a vida. Ecossistema Anima. Educação que habilita para o futuro.
Olá, pessoal.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this event.
Para mim é um prazer enorme estar com
For me,
todos.
it's a pleasure to be with all of you today once again. This is a very special evening that concludes this amazing cycle of events, welcoming and celebrating the arrival of Anima ecosystem with the institutions IMB Morumbi, Unifax, UNP, Unireader, FARDERX, IBMR, UNFG, FBB, BSP, CDEP, and our
Aqui de Belo Horizonte, de onde eu falo.
lovely Faculdade Milton Campus from Belo Horizonte.
Era uma
Before going on vacation, you've all had the opportunity of participating of other amazing moments. We had a whole week dedicated to events presenting the different areas of knowledge that are part of our ecosystem, as well as knowing our famous verticals. We talked about HSM, Inspirali, Ebradi, Singularity University, and the Cordon Bleu. After that, we've had two events that were also amazing with our founders that talked to two great entrepreneurs in Brazil. Our dear Luisa Helena Trajano, the president of the board of administration of Magazine Luiza, and Guilherme Bentimol, the executive president of the board of administration of XP. If you weren't able to participate in some of these events, don't worry. They are all recorded and they are available for you. Click the link at our description or access animaeducacao.com.br. There you have all the links so you can see the recordings. And I would like to invite you to enjoy the content that represents a little of the largest and most innovative ecosystem of quality education in the country, and we can offer it for you. You are already part and bring to life the ecosystem, and together we are more than 330,000 students. The event of today is a chance for presenting one of the projects that particularly I like the most, which is called Anima Nest. Anima Nest is our attempt to bring to you, in a consistent way, a real ecosystem of innovation. Anima Nest, as the name says, is the nest where we capture, help, support, mentor the startups that are born from students and collaborators so they can follow the path of entrepreneurship. It's been so many years that we've had Anima Nest in the on-site format at schools. With the pandemic, we could reach a new level, and we were able to provide schools and students all around the country to participate on this entrepreneurial journey. So I invite you all to get to know Anima Nest and how you can take the ideas from paper and maybe build the next, successful startups of Brazil and maybe from the world. Before introducing officially our guests of the evening, let me reinforce that if you are comfortable to watch the live in English, and if you want to see the original audio of our guest, in the description here you have another link for you to go to the other one in English. The link here already will have the simultaneous translation. But this is, as I said, a special evening for all the entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. Without further ado, let me reinforce how much Anima believes we can help you, students, to start entrepreneurial efforts. In an evening like that, we have to bring two important entrepreneurs to share their experiences. That's why I want to start the evening by presenting you with our dear founder, Mauricio Escobar. Mauricio, I know you since 2004, 1 year after you started this journey with Anima. Mauricio is the member of the board of Anima, and he's one of the persons that particularly has helped us a lot in strengthening the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. So without any doubts, you are one of the biggest entrepreneurs in Brazil. Mauricio, welcome. And now the floor.
Fala, Rafão. Você tá bem, cara?
Hello, Rafão. How are you? Everything fine? Yes, I'm great. And as I said, it's an honor to have you here for helping us with this live about entrepreneurship. I hope you can bring some of your journey, how you helped in a way to build and consolidate our Anima Nest. So thank you very much. First, I have to thank you for the invitation from you and Anima Nest to participate on this amazing event. I would like to thank you for your generous words about me. I'm not even sure if they are real or true, but the admiration that I have for you after all this time is reciprocal. So I would like to say that, and I'd like to say good evening to our students, our teachers, educators that are participating and watching. I would like to greet our friends from the ecosystem that are also participating and say that it's not only a special moment to close this cycle of events of Anima Nest, but also because of our guest of the evening. Talking about entrepreneurship and being able to talk about it with maybe one of the main entrepreneurs we know, not only because of the amount of companies he has started, and we are going to discuss that, his life story, but also for being one of the creators of the exponential thinking, exponential technologies, and he talks a lot about the exponential technologies, and I'm sure this makes the day even more special. That's why we are very proud to have received Peter here sometimes already in HSM events. We are very proud to be the Brazilian partners to edit his main books. Here we can talk about it. And more than that, to bring to Brazil Singularity University and being the official partner, a country partner of Singularity, this institution that Build started, helped create, and now the thinking has spread over the world. So, because we are going to explore all of these aspects of Peter's life and his way of thinking, I'm not going to talk so much about his bio. And so I would like to call Peter, and after our short video, I will swap into English, and we are going to start with the simultaneous translation into Portuguese. So,
hello, Mauricio.
Peter, how are you? How are you, my friend? Where exactly are you right now?
I'm in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, 5 hours earlier from you, I think. And it's a beautiful day here. I hope you're healthy and doing well.
Yeah, I am. Thanks God, I am. And I hope you and your family are doing fine as well.
Thank you. We are. And it's great to be joining you again. I love Brazil, have been there as on the stage of HSM and Anima numerous times, and it's always my pleasure to serve. I find it pretty amazing how Brazil, how the students and the entrepreneurs in Brazil are so exponentially minded, far more than almost any other country, in terms of their passion to make the world a better place, in terms of their understanding of exponential technologies. You'll have to explain to me why. Why is that? But maybe it's just Anima and the work that you do.
Now, and I'm sure we can talk more about that and the role of education in terms of developing this exponential and entrepreneurial mindset. And I'd love to know your story a little bit more. But first, I want to introduce our chat here by asking you about our moment. Of course, we always saw you as a very optimistic voice about the future. Always have been. And I'm very curious to know how did the pandemics affect your view of the future, or if it didn't, and how's the future look like for a guy who knows more about it than anyone?
So that's a great question. And listen, we have known for some time that we were going to have a pandemic. We have known it, and it's been discussed on many stages by many scientists. It's not a matter of if, a matter of when. And of course, no one listened to that. Now, one of the realizations, or a few gold, silver linings around this pandemic, and I want to just mention, number one, it could have been much worse. If we look back at what it was like for the Black Plague, or for the Spanish flu 100 years ago, this killed 50 million people around the world. I mean, orders of magnitude greater. So this pandemic, while it was serious, and my heart goes out to those who have been injured by it, it could have been a lot worse. So that's the first thing. And it also has made us clearly aware, and it's woken us up about these dangers. The second thing is, it's incredible how fast the world responded. When everybody back in March of 2019 was very concerned, and the stock markets were plummeting, and there was some panic about getting food and toilet paper and cleaning supplies and so forth. Our fear was much worse than the reality. What we didn't realize is that millions of scientists and doctors and engineers and researchers all started working on the solution right away. And we set brand new records in how fast we were able to go from the RNA sequence of the virus to a vaccine, and not one vaccine, but a dozen vaccines, and from the vaccine design to manufacturing to distribution in under a year. I mean, this normally takes 4 or 5, 10 years, and it was done in under a year. And this is a result of exponential technologies, right? The virus was sequenced in Wuhan on the morning of the first day, and the sequence was sent over the internet at the speed of light to labs around the world. And that afternoon, labs were working on a vaccine and had a first design the next day, right? I mean, we're talking about things that are lightning speed. So that's the second, what we say here in the United States, silver lining. The second benefit is that we realize how fast the systems can work. The third is that the pandemic has caused a new generation of healthcare companies to emerge, and more money being invested in healthcare than any time ever in human history. We have hit all new highs in terms of venture capital investments and private investments in healthcare, and we're reinventing how we deliver healthcare around the world. So while it was a travesty in many ways, a real problem, it has really moved the needle in terms of accelerating the speed of healthcare. So that's the way I see it. We're not over yet, but there will be more companies born in health technology, education technologies, communication technologies. As a result, whenever there's a big, massive problem, you give birth to many entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs listening, your job is to find a great problem and solve it. That's what entrepreneurs do. And there were a lot of problems like, how do I exercise? How do I get my food? What is the testing? Where do I get a mask? And if you've got an entrepreneurial mind, the more problems, the better, because it gives you targets to shoot for.
That's amazing. And that is the link for talking a little bit about entrepreneurship. It seems to me that entrepreneurs are part of the solution for this new world, or solving the biggest issues of our society. Our students have a lot of concerns about jobs in the future, how jobs will be gone, and it seems to me that entrepreneurship can be a way, a place that I can put my best talent on and solve the biggest issues of our time. Do you see that as well? And love to hear you about how youngers nowadays should worry or not about jobs, and which are the new jobs for the future, as we're talking about entrepreneurship here.
Sure. So great questions, important questions. The first thing that I would tell anybody listening here is answer this question for yourself. Are you clear what your purpose in life is? Do you have a clear purpose, like why you were put on this planet? What is it that wakes you up in the morning and gets you excited to get out of bed? What keeps you going after midnight? That is like, wow, this is amazing. I love this. I think it's really important that especially an entrepreneur, figure out what their purpose is. In my Abundance 360 community, where I mentor entrepreneurs and CEOs, I call it your massively transformative purpose. Like, what's the big thing on this planet that you want to do? And you need to give yourself permission to dream that big. And that kind of a big purpose comes from an emotional energy. It comes from either incredible excitement and joy and awe that, when I was growing up, I wanted so much to travel to space. Space was the next frontier. It was everything for me. And that was amazing. Or it can come from a negative emotion, like just pain or fear. Like, I refuse to let that exist. But to be a great entrepreneur and to be willing to keep going when everybody else gives up, it needs to be fueled by emotional energy. It can't just be something you're doing for the money, or you're doing from your mom and your dad, or for your teacher. It has to be something that's in your gut, in your heart and soul, because doing anything significant in the world, anything big and bold, is hard. And you're going to hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and you have to pick yourself up and try again. A great entrepreneur, Martin Rothblatt, said, every no is a step closer to yes. And that's been true for me in my life. I just, refuse, if I care about something truly, if it is my massively transformative purpose, my MTP, then I am going to figure out how to get there. And it may take me 10 years. So first and foremost, what's your passion? If you've identified your passion, I'm not worried about technology replacing jobs. In fact, for the last 30 years, it's well documented that technology has created more and more and more jobs, not less jobs. There will be those jobs that are either dull or dangerous or dirty that will get replaced by AI or robots. And that's fine, right? If you didn't dream about, cleaning bathrooms or being a maker, whatever it is, let technology take care of that. What did you dream about? What did you want to do? The next decade or two is going to be less about technology replacing jobs. It's more going to be about humans and technology working together. It's going to be human and AI collaboration, human and robot collaboration. That's what we're going to see, where you're enabled to do your job better, faster, with more joy, because you're using technology, as we are right now. And then your final question about where should you look for a job? Again, I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think the right question to ask is, what are you passionate about? What do you love doing? And do that, because you're going to do that better than anybody else. So it used to be my focus was on space. Then I was focusing on, through Singularity, exponential technologies, and teaching that and investing in that. And then recently, it's all been about longevity. How do I add 10, 20, 30 healthy years on my life and everybody's life? And, if you're passionate about something, you will learn about it, you'll meet the best people in the field, and there'll be countless opportunities for you.
And well, I'd love to hear how does your story came up with those kinds of moonshots and MTPs. And I've read that you studied at Harvard and at MIT, studied medicine and engineering and astronautics. So you're such an interesting bio, such a different one. And you're talking about space. And how did your MTP evolve over time, and
sure,
what sorts of things you did to get there?
Mauricio, a great question.
You actually did.
Yeah. So I was born in New York. My parents were both born on a small island in Greece, the island of Lesbos. And my father was a physician, a doctor. My mom should have been. She ran his office. And it was expected when I was a kid, I'd become a doctor, right? It's like, you have immigrant parents. They want you to become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And I became very passionate about space because the Apollo program was going on, and there was this TV show called Star Trek that showed me where we were going in the future. And so I told my parents I was going to study medicine, yes, but what I really wanted to do was space. So I went to MIT as an undergrad, and I started my first organization at MIT. It was a college group called Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. It's still doing very well around the world. It grew from a chapter I started at MIT to a global high school organization. Jeff Bezos from Amazon was the president of the chapter at Princeton. And I went from that to medical school, again, to make my parents happy. And when I was in medical school, I was starting companies. I was running a space university called the International Space University, and also a rocket company called International Microspace. I would work at night at the hospital from 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. I would then go and sleep for 6 hours, and I'd go to the office from noon until 10 p.m. And that was my cycle. It was insane. And long story short, I barely graduated medical school. And my goal was simply to get my diploma, and I sent it to my parents. And then I decided I was going to do what I wanted to do, which was open up space. And I focused on the launch company and a satellite communications company, and then another company called Zero G. We have a weightless parabolic airplane. We do these parabolic flights, and people are weightless inside. I had a chance to bring Professor Stephen Hawking, the world's expert in gravity, into weightlessness. And he was living in a wheelchair. And so that was great. The space business was going very slow, not moving anywhere near as fast as I wanted. And I read one day a book called The Spirit of St. Louis by Charles Lindbergh. And it told the story of how Charles Lindbergh flew from New York to Paris to win a $25,000 prize. And I had no idea that's why he made the flight. And it hit me that what if I were to start a prize for private space flight, like offer a prize for the first person who could fly me and my friends into space. And so in 1996, under the Arch in St. Louis, we announced a $10 million prize for the first team who could build a spaceship carrying a pilot, you and me, Mauricio, up to 100 kilometers, land, and with the same ship, make the flight again in 2 weeks. And it was won by a guy named Burt Rutan. Richard Branson bought the rights to create Virgin Galactic. And that launched the X Prize, and we've launched $250 million worth of prizes in different areas. It was then that I met Ray Kurzweil, who's one of the most famous futurists and AI thought leaders. And I proposed to Ray the idea of creating a singularity university. And so I mentored with him, and I spent a decade learning about computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, augmented and virtual reality, blockchain. And we built the Singularity University. I built a large venture fund to invest in these deals. And that was my second phase. So my first MTP was to make humanity a multi-planetary species. And out of that came the X Prize and a few companies. Then my second MTP with Singularity was to help impact the lives of 1 billion people. How do we use exponential technologies to impact 1 billion people's lives in a positive fashion? And then the last, 5 years and the next decade for me is really focused on longevity, on age reversal. How do we add 10 or 20 or 30 healthy years in everybody's life? So that's very quickly a quick overview of my life so far.
And it's an amazing one. Congratulations, Peter. I think I have never heard you talk a little bit more about your
Journey.
Journey, exactly. And it's interesting because when you were talking about it, I just see that you're pretty much a guy ahead of your time. You know, one of the questions I have here is about this new space race reborn. You know, so you did that maybe 20, 30 years in the past, and now the thing is accelerating again. And I know you're very connected with Branson and Musk and Bezos and other stuff. I'd love to hear you about also the flying car from Embraer, and now you're talking about longevity, and it seems to me that maybe it's something that you're now an evangelist, but we'll be talking much more about it in 5 or 10 years from now. So what can you tell us about this technology? How do you foresee some things that it seems to us more mainstream now, but you were studying that long years ago?
So the space race going on right now, in 1996, which is what, 25 years ago, amazing, was when I said, listen, the technology for people to build private rockets that can carry humans safely into space is here. We need to incentivize, to light the fuse, to get companies formed. And that's when the X Prize was launched, a $10 million prize. It took 8 years for it to be won. We had 26 teams from 7 countries around the world. And it was won in 2004. Now, if you asked me in 2004, when Spaceship One had made its flight, how long it would take for the technology to be commercialized and be available for me to buy a ticket, I would have guessed at the most 5 years. It turned out to be 17 years. And so this is one of the first learnings about when something is possible, turning it into a product and a business is just as hard, right? The first design, the first product is hard, but making it manufacturable and making it operational at scale repeatably is 100 times harder, right? So that's one of the realizations that I'm seeing over and over again. So going back to the flying car, what we call the electric vertical takeoff or landing, eVTOL, that technology has been discussed for the past 7-8 years. Now, there's 150 companies building these. There's about, I would guess, 6 or 7 that are very serious, right? Embraer is in that game, and Embraer is an incredible company. I mean, what they've been able to build on the global stage is a beautiful product. The Phenom 100, the Phenom 300, the products they're creating. I'm a pilot. I own some planes. I can't afford the Phenom 300 yet, but I would buy it in a heartbeat.
Neither do I.
But a few of these flying car companies, to use that easier terminology, have gone public for anywhere between $3 billion to $6 billion. And they now have a lot of money to turn their design into a working company and system. So when will they be here? Maybe it's another 5 years, but they will be here, right? As will the fully autonomous cars, as will, many of these spaceflight companies. Now, what's extraordinary is what Elon has done with SpaceX. And I know the story intimately. I was there when he started SpaceX. I'm a shareholder. I wish I had bought more shares early on. But Elon has a few attributes that are worthy for entrepreneurs to hear. Number one, he came to start SpaceX and Tesla with $140 million in his pocket, which is a very important point, right? A lot of companies, and some of the companies that I failed to build were companies where they were capital intensive. They required a lot of cash, and I'm constantly raising money. And if you miss on a financing round, the whole thing can crumble. And believe me, I have a lot of companies I'm very proud succeeded, some that are still going on, and a good third of my companies failed miserably. And one of them that I think about this is from having massive capital requirements that I could not pay myself. So if you're going to go after something like that, having $140 million that you can pay if you need to is really important. The second thing that Elon had, besides his wealth that he got from selling PayPal to eBay, was his brilliance. He's just an extraordinary engineer, and he focused and asked what's called a first principle thinking, basically going back and saying from physics and pure math, what should be possible. And he designed the Merlin engine and the Falcon launch vehicles. Now he's building Starship. And it's not like he's beating the other space companies by a little bit. He's in a completely different league than himself, right? He's 100 times further along than the aerospace industry or Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin. Just what he's been able to do. It's amazing. So let me pause there for your next question.
No, and I think there are two issues there that I really want to try to explore a little further. The first one is how those principles apply to a student, the guy in our audience here that wants to start their own business. You talk a lot about abundance. So seeing the world as an abundance place rather than a scarce place.
Yes.
And I think that in recent years, it has also to do with the use and the amount of capital needed to solve those big issues. Of course, Elon Musk is have some special and peculiar conditions that allowed him, and he's such a genius guy that could make it. But I think in everyone could apply some of those principles in their own. How do you think about that?
Sure. So, first of all, I wrote my second book. My first book was called Abundance: The Future is Better Than You Think. My second book I wrote for entrepreneurs. It's called Bold: How to Go Big, Create Wealth, and Impact the World. And HSM was my publisher there. So I would say the things I'll share with you are detailed in that book as a how-to. People need to realize that this is the best time ever to start a company by a long margin. There is more capital available today than any time ever in human history. So in 2020, during the pandemic, when you think everybody would be stopping and nothing would be going, we hit all new venture capital investment highs around the world. More money was invested in companies in the middle of the pandemic than in 2019. And 2019 beat 2018, and 2018 beat 2017, right? It's just more and more capital. So we're living in a world of capital abundance. You're also living in a time where you have access to all of the tools you need at a very demonetized cost, meaning everything is getting cheaper and cheaper. So it used to be, if you needed computational power, it was expensive. You'd have to buy servers now you can buy as much computational power off of Amazon Web or Google Web Services whatever it might be, at small increments. It used to be that getting access to data was difficult. Now you can get data almost, anywhere, everywhere. The cost of, if you're in the biology field, the cost of sequencing one genome used to be $100 million. Now it's $100. It's 1,000,000 times cheaper. So the tools that you need, and then, every company I've typically started with one or two co-founders that are share my passion, but maybe bring different skills. And so today you have access to billions of people around the world, and who could be your co-founders, who could be your partners, who could be members of your team, right? Zoom, as we're on here right now, has given us a global reach. And so your market is no longer just Sao Paulo or Brazil or South America, it's the world. And so those are all really important. But again, if you're starting a company, when I'm investing in an entrepreneur, I want to feel and see and hear their passion. I want to know that this is the most important thing that they're doing, that this is how they're going to change the planet. And so you need to find that passion. And again, please don't start a company just to make money. Money will come if you're doing what you love and it's significant enough that's going to have an impact on the planet that you're going to be proud of.
Great. So great to hear you about it. And also to inspire some of our students here to follow that passion and try to go through it. Which technologies you should, I want to explore a little bit about some advices for youngers. Which technologies we all should follow at this point, or what crazy ideas are you involved with? And I want to explore a little bit about longevity as well. So sure. Give us some advice on practical things we should study at least to be, we should study a little bit and try to see if that connects with our passions.
So listen, the two biggest technologies this decade that are going to create the next trillion-dollar companies and change the world are AI and biotechnology, right? Without any question, those two are just exploding onto the scene. I think anybody right now, I describe it the following. There are going to be two kinds of companies at the end of this decade. Companies that are fully using AI and companies that are out of business. That's basically it. So there's no company, I don't care what you're doing, that's not going to be using AI in its operations, in its manufacturing, in its sales, in its HR, and every different component. So you need to be familiarizing yourself. You don't have to be an expert. You need to understand what is machine learning, what is neural nets, how are they used, where are they used, and just have enough to understand in my business plan or in my business, where should I be using some level of AI that I'm not right now? Then, if you've identified a really great use of AI, you can then go and find an AI expert. Typically, someone's going to be 22, 23, 24, 25 years old, and partner with them. Not everybody doesn't have to be an AI expert. You can be an expert in the problem, and that person can be an expert in the technology. Or you can be an expert in marketing or in finance or in fundraising, whatever it might be. So I think that's important. Then the field of biotechnology, where I'm spending a lot of time, CRISPR editing systems, gene therapy, stem cells. I don't think there's any bigger market than being able to give people a longer, healthier life. You can't take it with you when you die. And so people will spend as much money as they can to give themselves an extra 10, 20, 30 healthy years. And so therein lies I think the two big opportunities. Now, are there other big opportunities? Of course. Those are the two that I'm most tracking and excited about.
And what can you tell us about, for the benefit of our guys here, our educators as well? So what should be the role of education in trying to change mindsets, the way of that we can think about that, and the other half, how do we skill people to better deal with those kinds of technologies? What are the role of education? I'd love to hear you, and of course our professors would love to hear you about it.
So I've started 2 universities. I think of myself as a teacher, a mentor, a coach, and I care about this field. I have 2 10-year-old boys, fraternal twins that are, 4th grade. So I think that most education around the world hasn't changed in 50 years. It is still one person in front of a classroom, and half of the students are lost and half the students are bored, and that, different students learn in different ways. I like listening versus reading versus doing. And we try and force everybody to learn the same way. And I think those are the problems. But I think there are some incredible solutions coming. This is a first step, what we're doing right now in Zoom. And it's pretty extraordinary, right? Compared to 10 years ago, being able to bring in anybody from around the world, have simultaneous translation, and effectively do it for free, right? I mean, that's the most amazing thing. This is not costing us really anything for the technology part of the equation. But it's just the beginning. So the technologies that are coming, that are converging, I'm always looking for technologies converging, 2 or 3 or 4 coming together, is going to be the convergence of artificial intelligence and VR, virtual reality, that in my mind are going to reinvent education. So what does that look like? It looks like if I want to go and learn about ancient Greece, today I might pick up a book and read about Plato or Socrates, and it'll be like, I'll understand some of it. It'll be kind of difficult, kind of boring. I'll get distracted. In the future, I will put on my VR headset and I'll enter the spatial web, a 3-dimensional room, and I'll be in ancient Greece. And I look around and it looks like ancient Greece. It looks photorealistic. And I see some guy in a white toga sitting on a piece of marble over there, and I walk over and he says, "Hi, I'm Plato. What's your name?" And we enter a conversation. And I spend the day talking to him, and he walks around and he introduces me to his friends and his ideas, and we sit down and we draw in the dirt over there, and I have an experience that is extraordinary. And now, am I going to remember that more than listening to somebody teaching on the stage or reading a book? Absolutely. It's fully immersive, right? So this is where we're going with education. There are companies that are going to take VR and augmented reality to the next level. We'll see what Apple comes out with next year. but one of the companies, I have a venture fund, Bold Capital Partners. We invest in all these exponential technologies. One of our companies has a contact lens that you put on your eye, and it projects into the back of the eye. So when my eyes are open, I see it's augmented reality. I see an overlay over what I'm seeing. And this is the cool part. If I close my eyes, it still works, and it's VR, and I can watch a movie with my eyes closed. Because it's projecting on the inside of my retinas, right?
I think I'm more scared than amazed.
So we'll reinvent education. The other thing that's coming in the education field, and this is a lot of work that's coming out of China right now, is if I'm teaching a class and there's 40 people in the class, and I'm having a conversation and I'm trying to make it interactive, I don't know who really understands it and who doesn't. I can ask them, like, who does not understand this, but no one's going to raise their hand. They'll be embarrassed. There's technology that's been developed now that if a student is using a tablet to listen to a video or do a problem, that tablet is a forward-looking camera looking at their face. And there is AI that can look at your facial cues. Like, do you like crinkle your eyebrows? Do you open your eyes? Whatever, and tell whether you're lost, whether you're excited, or whether you're bored, right? And begin to change the way it's delivering the information. So it's one-on-one teaching. So these are the kinds of tools. There's one more. A gentleman out of Singularity, Kyle Nell, will put an EEG helmet on your head, and he will measure your brain waves as you're learning something, and that will steer the direction of how you're learning. So those are just a couple of examples of how the educational field will change over the decade ahead.
Amazing. I'm more than thrilled to explore that, being at Anima in our education ecosystem here. Can you share some of these experiments and some of these technologies that we'll see on the longevity issue? Since you're a guy who sees the future better than we do here, and you're devoted to give us more years. So my grandson, who maybe will be born in 10 years from now, how long will he or she live here?
I think for your grandson, it's as long as he wants. It's indefinite. I think for us, there's no reason why we won't see 150 years old. And then, so there's a concept called longevity escape velocity. Today, every year that you're alive, science is adding about 3 months to your life, a quarter of a year. And every year, science is getting better, healthcare technology is getting better, our ability to identify what causes disease and solve that. There will be a point at which point, for every year you're alive, science is adding more than a year. And we call that point longevity escape velocity. Ray Kurzweil predicts that to be in the next 10 to 12 years. I just finished with a friend, Dr. George Church, who's at Harvard Medical School, and he's predicting very much the same, the next 10 to 20 years. So here's one insight. As humans, we were never designed to live past age 30. 100,000 years ago or 1 million years ago, we were, call us cavemen, call us, early humans. You would typically go into puberty at age 12 or 13. And before we had birth control, you would become pregnant at age 12 or 13. And by the time you were 26, 27 years old, your baby was having a baby and you were a grandparent now. And before food was abundant, before there was more food for everybody, more than we need, the last thing you wanted to do was steal food from your grandchildren's mouths if you wanted to perpetuate the species. And the best thing you could do was die. So we were never designed to live past age 30. There was a engineering value in evolution for us, the older individuals, getting out of the way. And today we're understanding what happens, right? There are species of life on Earth, like the whale, which can, the bowhead whale that can live 200 years. The Greenland shark that can live 400 or 500 years. And if they can, why can't we? And it's either, a software problem or a hardware problem. And we're beginning to understand that. Here's one other point, Mauricio, which is the genes you have today are the same genes you had when you were 18, and the same genes you'll have when you're 88. But you're not going to look the same from 18 to where you are today to 88, right? But why? If your genes are the same, why are you changing? Why are you getting older, right? And it's not the genes you have, it's which genes are turned on and what genes are turned off. It's called the epigenome. It's the control of these genes. And as you get older, genes that should be on are not on, or genes that should be off are turned on. And it's these issues that are causing a lot of the diseases of aging. And so some of the work that folks like David Sinclair and George Church are working on is how do we turn back the clock, turn back the epigenome, and actually put the controls back to where they were when you were 20. So you've got that
our gene will always be young in that sense.
Well, you want to have your genes will all be the same, but the control of those genes should be as they were. The genes that were on and off when you were 20 should be the genes on and off now. And that's the goal of what's called epigenetic reprogramming. And so that work has been successfully done in mice. The work is going on in dogs right now. And in success, we'll see human trials going on in the next, 3 to 5 years. The other thing going on that's equally incredible is numerous companies working on regrowing organs for you, giving you spare organs. Imagine if you have access to a spare heart, liver, lung, kidney, so that if you have heart disease, no problem, we're just going to swap it out like we swap out the tires on your car.
Wow. Now you scare me a lot. So I'm just kidding. And it is it's really amazing. And then I just want to know, we've been doing a lot of work here at Anima, especially in this past 2 years, about trying to really help people. It has been a very tough years of mental health issues. And difficult years for most of us, mainly of course because of the pandemics. And we're trying hard to keep our mental health safe. And I'm curious to know about when you talk about longevity, how much is applying new technologies or emergent technologies, and how much of that is coming from the mindset you use, and how meditation, how flow helps with that. I know Stephen Kotler is a great friend of yours, and he's an advocate of that. So it is a combination of those things. It is more technology than using our brain in in a better way? How do you see that? And I think we're going into the end of the session here because I have to
I'll wrap it up with that. Okay. So listen, I think one of the most important things that an entrepreneur has is their mindset. It's the most important thing. If you said the greatest entrepreneurs on the planet, right? Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, and you took away their money, you took away their technology, but you kept their mindset, the way they see the world, I bet that they would regrow their wealth, right? If you took away their mindset, they would probably lose their wealth. Your mindset is everything. So what I teach in my abundance community, for example, in Abundance 360, and I welcome communities to look at abundance360.com, is I teach about an abundance mindset, an exponential mindset, a moonshot mindset, and a longevity mindset. And I think mental health is fundamental. I think one of the most important things for having a long life is having purpose. If you don't have purpose, if you don't know why you're on the planet, you're not going to stay on the planet. So I think having a purpose bigger than yourself is really important. So if you want to have a healthy, long life, it's your diet, get rid of sugar, it's sleep 8 hours a day, it's exercise, and it is a positive mental health attitude for sure. And then all the technologies will come and help you.
And that is really a perfect way of for our finishing here, Peter. I'm so glad to be in touch with you again, and I hope the best for you. And thanks for believing in this bigger purpose and believing in those crazy ideas. We are always following you from here in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. E agora eu mudo de novo para português.
And now I switch into Portuguese and I call Rafael for our final comments. Rafael, are you there? Yes, there he is. And I'd like to say that the last one was meant for you. I know, as our well-being and health director had a very good end of session, right? Escobar, first of all, I have to thank you, because this meeting, this question was special for this moment I have now at Anima. You, Daniel, Marcelo gave me an opportunity for 7.5 years working with innovation, and from then we had Anima Labs, and then we had the platforms, AI, bots. We started building this trajectory of innovation, and now in the past years, as you said, we have invested a lot in start looking at the human technology and how we can develop from the mental, spiritual, and health points of view. So I thank you for your question. And now, actually, we are talking about Anima Nest. And this was the last event of this series. Thank you, it was amazing. And so we have to understand the elements Peter brings from the exponential thinking, the transformative purpose. He has this optimistic view of the future, and this was very nice. At the same time, bringing this dimension that we can build our trajectory with a purpose, with passion, and this is the main human technology. So thank you, it was amazing. Rafael, thank you for the invitation, and I would like everyone to keep this last sentence of Peter. Having a purpose larger than yourself is the best way of having a healthier life and a longer life. I think this is an amazing way of concluding our session and this series of events. Thank you once again for inviting me to this event. Escobar, you have
Animanest.
started, you know, a kickoff for Animanest,
Verão.
because soon our students in the ecosystem are going to receive our
Nosso novo Animanest. Como é que a gente
newsletters about how the Animanest starts,
Estejam
how
preparados.
we choose our students, so
Muito
be
obrigado.
prepared.
E uma
Many
excelente
things are
noite
to
a
come,
todos.
and so thank you all, and good night to all of you.